Hey everyone, sorry for being late on this review. I originally planned to do this yesterday, but I had to work on my thesis, so I delayed it. Also had a good run yesterday, so I didn't want to get this interrupted by the review. But today we're looking at Emperor of Palamecia, the windbreaker template from JP. Nothing really exciting about this, so let's get going right away. Emperor is a wind-locked mage, he's an SLB unit, meaning no brave shift, and he's an SLB wind chainer. He has that super trashy Grandis, which is on display, 280 magic buff, has 85% attack magic break, 87% defense break, 88% SPR break, which it sounds good on paper, but when you do the math on a boss that has no passives, 88% is still 20% less damage done when you compare this to a 90% break. Also just 30% wind damp, which is kind of so nothing really too exciting, honestly. The abilities of his aren't really special, honestly. The only decent things maybe are his 130 imperils to wind, fire, and earth. The fire attack he had, or the magic asterisk stuff he has, it's a physically typed magic attack, can be imbued, which is cool, I guess. But it doesn't do much, it's just 64x. So the wind magic damage he has is 144x, so that's technically better if the boss or enemy is weak to wind. Has 2 evasion stacks just for himself, he's rather selfish as you can see, and it's just, nothing is really good about him, honestly. Just that, yeah. I mean, the one cool thing about him is that he has an autocast with an 80% element imperil, but come on, that's 7-star stuff and not near vision stuff. But I guess SLB units are just glorified 7-star units at the end of the day. Otherwise, what I do appreciate is him having 4 innate types of killers. It's at least one is rare, aquatic, it's just 150 magic damage, physical, but it's something, I guess. Otherwise, honestly, I find it hard to really give him an edge. I mean, yeah, I just realized his lightning magic stuff at 200x is actually the strongest one out of his batch, with 130 imperil as well. So he has 4 130 imperils, 160 coming right up on his SLB, but yeah. It's still not good. Alright, so let's check out the Limit Burst and Super Limit Burst. The Limit Burst, nothing too fancy, honestly. 85 Defense Break, 88 Spirit Break, 25 Rod Resistance Break, or Imperil, that's nice. And a 145 Imperil to Wind, which is already pretty good, honestly. 150x wind damage, wind magic. The SLB is where it's at, 89% Spirit Break, still 87% Defense Break, which is basically the same thing as his Grandis. It's just a higher Spirit Break, but still 10% difference to in terms of damage output for units, Spirit-based units or Magic-based units. It's still, I don't know whether to call it actually bad or just barely enough. It's hard to judge, honestly. But what's real important here is that he is finally another unit that can Rod Imperil at 35% even, which I do appreciate a lot. Mind you, we do have Kaito for such things in Clash of Wills, but outside of Clash of Wills, there's really only Cetra Descendant Earth, and she's super old and nobody really uses her anymore. Meaning, there it is, we finally have a Rod Imperil and again, but the unit is underwhelming, to say the least. Also, he is the first batch of the 160 imperils, which is cool. So that's rather strong if wind ever becomes meta. I could actually see Emperor getting his place off the bench and actually do something useful for once. But then again, as you can see, his chaining. I mean, 230x, wind magic damage, all enemies, whatever. But what really grinds my gears, and I really have to stop myself from rambling too long about this, is Bolting Strike Variant 2. Meaning, this is firing off with an offset. It's not the immediate Bolting Strike you're used to. There's a slight offset, and this one is super annoying when you have original, true bolting strike chainers, such as Lara Croft, for example. You will notice it and you will hate it immediately once you see this happening. I don't know what Alum designers were smoking when they designed Bolting Strike Variant 2, but the guy who did this should get fired and they should revert this to the regular Bolting Strike. Bolting Strike Variant 2 is just dumb. Let's talk about the items he brings along. The ability is just your regular typed, or not typed, numbered Final Fantasy series Trustmaster. It's trash, basically outside the series for Final Fantasy 2 units only, aka literally just Emperor. It's 500 static magic and 50% magical Omni Killer. I knew I had a mistake on there, but whatever. It's magical Omni Killer. The Super Trustmaster, heavy armor, 110 magic, 60 spirit, 75% human killer, both physical and magical, which is nice, and a 100% LB damage for breaker units only. Meaning, I mean, there are a few units, I believe Angela is a breaker unit in one of her forms. I'm not quite sure which one it is right now, but she can't wear this regardless, so that's whatever. But a unit such as Louise could, for example, wear this. But then again, Louise gears easily for everything, so whatever. And then Emperor variants gain 1000 static magic and 200% magical true double hand, which is a nice bonus. The Vision card is your series version card, nothing too fancy, 100 magic, bad, 50 magic, 25 LB, and 500 static magic for FF2 units, meaning trash tier TMR outside Final Fantasy magic units, Final Fantasy 2 magic units, and a trashy vision card that you will never end up using because literally every other magic card is better than this. And yeah, the STMR is rather decent for the few units that can use this. So let's check out the damage calculation. As always, pause the video if you want to check the parameters. Let's move on to the build. Now, because Emperor's Super Limit Burst is a hard-locked wind attack, we can actually use Return Nicole's STMR, the Lucid War Fan, which is, even though the icon may state that it's not, but it's a rod, meaning he can make use of his 35% rod in peril. And the good thing about this STMR is that it has 100% LB damage on it. Now with Dark Reign's vision card, this easily tops out at 300% LB, and that means we do have a lot of free slots for Emperor. Sadly, this does not actually fill out his magic, what's it called? Magical True Double Hand. This is still 25% off, but it's something. I mean, he still gets the job done. And what's cool is I also was able to use Magic Boost Plus. Magic Boost Plus in a dual race scenario actually outperforms a 75% killer. And I have this on the next sheet. So this one is built for Insect as well as, I believe, yeah, Insect Demon, right. So we do have, let's see, it's rather decent, 200 Insect, 300 Demon, so that's not too shabby. So here's the result, and still he's just at Sims at 1 billion, 47% or 48%, if you round this up, of Angela's damage, meaning, yeah, it's not too good, honestly, but for a breaker type unit, it's nice chip damage, maybe. Results may vastly differ, depending on the usability of Magic Boost Plus. And I calculated this, the Magic Boost Plus provides a 28% damage increase over another Insect Killer, which is nice, and especially somewhat surprising because I would have believed that even on a dual race type scenario, a 37.5% increase in killers does somewhat damage, would outperform Magic Boost Plus, but I guess stored magic is one hell of a drug, and it literally outperforms a 75% killer material. I did not expect this, so that's rather neat to see. But yeah, at the end of the day, Emperor of Palamecia isn't really the best unit in terms of damage. And honestly, the 89% Spirit Break just... he should have gotten the 90% break, honestly. But yeah. So, the verdict. There's just one really good thing, and that's the Rod Imperil and the 160% Wind Imperil. Those are the really good things. And I personally couldn't decide whether the 89% Spirit Break is actually okay or good, or whether it's bad. So I put it on both. I didn't deduct or add a point to this because I'm really not sure. Is it worth bringing him over, say, a 90% Spirit Breaker, be it Louise, be it whatever may be coming soon? I don't know. And I would say the answer is no, because he deals so little damage that even though he does a 160% win imperil, it's just not enough. The damage gain from units that would have to be used isn't good, because wind is not a meta element. I mean, what do we have? We have a wind field. Yes, that's from Ferris. If you're using Ferris, that's like another whole slot just wasted you could have used on another element. And I mean, we have such good units. We have Esther, we have Knights of Grandchild, we have Dragoon Kane, we have Baran. Oh, he's also lightning, by the way. So there's plenty of good units. Or Hero Dai is also a great unit. So, but all those units, they have some kind of downside, right? Well, minus Esther or Kane or Knights of Grandchild. But those hard-locked mages such as Emperor, Baran, Hadlar, what have you, Dark Rain, they all have the same issue, that they immediately become useless if they cannot match the element. And that's a huge issue in my opinion. And it also shows in the Emperor verdict or rating. At 2 out of 10, I mean, let's check the bad side first. Trashy VC. He also gets that added minus for the 200% stat grounders, because I feel like that's an insult. 7-star unit had better cooldowns that you could use every X turns, and they have a once in a lifetime stat grounders that does just worse. And the fact that super limit burst activation buffs are only 250 just adds insult to injury instead of being 300 flat out, honestly. So the SLB kit is also pretty much useless, even though it has 4 imperils. I count 135 as baseline these days. He has no party support, and I really hate Bolting Strike variant too. It ruined my day last Dark Visions when I wanted to use Laguna to chain with someone else. I forgot whom it was, but I just gave up after two attempts. That was just too stupid for my liking, so... Bolting Strike variant 2 may go die in a fire. I will never use it. I hate it with a passion, and the person who made this should get fired. So yeah, why? I mean, it's pretty obvious why Emperor is just a 2 out of 10, right? And it doesn't mean that the unit is inherently bad. It's just that he has such a small, super small niche usage where you may never end up using him. But if Wind ever is meta, again, because we get a huge either Imperil field or Amplification field that's only for the party side, then Emperor might be back on the menu, because he does provide that huge Imperil and also some nice chip damage. And that's one of the cases where I would say, yeah, the 89% Spirit Break, if another unit wasn't really that necessary, could be used. It's still a downgrade, because a 90% Spirit Break is still 10% stronger on a 0% passive boss than an 89% break. But if you don't use that many mages, maybe that's just a sacrifice you're willing to make in that case. So, all in all, I feel like for the time being, until Wind is actually a decent element to use on in Dark Visions, he is just a useless breaker unit from JP, just as is Axta the Return, just as is Reagan the Return, although Reagan the Return had his one use case, but otherwise he's rather useless. So he is truly a safe skip unless you really want to fight for top 10 Dark Visions, and for the time being, I don't see Wind being a particularly good element, especially with the things that are coming. And with that, I'll leave you to your Monday morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're from. And we'll see each other on Thursday for some cool stuff. See you then. Bye bye.